Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to week 3, day 1 here at LCS Academy. My name is Icarus, and I'm joined on the desk none other than the well-known Crumbs. How are you doing today so far? Are you excited for the series of matches, the first we have of this week? Yeah, and I mean, I'm super excited to be able to join you on the desk today. It is my first week here at LCS Academy. The audience didn't hear you, but production got this fixed. So, Crumbs, one more time for me.
Listen, we got good games. I'm just excited that we get to work together for the first time, so maybe we get to make some magic on the Rift.
Maybe we'll get to see some magic on the Rift for sure. Today we are going to be starting off with a series between CLG and Dignitas. Both of these teams are sitting at 1-3 in the standings so far. So hopefully one of these teams is going to be looking to try and pull out a win for themselves. And we do have the rest of the split up, or the rest of the games for the day also pulled up on the screen for you today. Are there any matches that you're particularly interested for?
Absolutely. There's a lot of hype around the last match of the day between Team Liquid and Immortals 4-0. Team Liquid 3-1 IMT. This was the roster that had a lot of practice with the LCS before the main IMT squad arrived. So they're pretty practiced. They're looking quite good. And it's a battle for the top. All the other matchups are usually middle of the pack. This is the one that tells us, is Team Liquid really just amazing in LCS and Academy right now? Or is Immortals competing with them?
Yeah, and last week, Kangas and Joshi were kind of talking about it. Team Liquid, they are sitting at that perfect 4-0 so far, but if you look at their strength of competition that they've played against so far, every team they've played up to this point is sitting at 1-3, so maybe not the most high-end caliber of the Academy teams that they're playing today. I'm super excited to see that final game, as you mentioned, because they're finally going to be playing against another Academy roster that has pulled out more than one win, another one that might be at the same competitive level as the TL roster that we've seen so far.
Yeah, and it's really important that these Academy teams end up finding competition within their own league, because they don't really get to cross-pollinate between the LCS teams a whole lot. Even the scrim partners are not that much LCS focused for an Academy team. So if there happens to be two or more competitive Academy teams, you can see that scene really starting to grow and foster the talent and improve them to the level where they can be substituted for LCS players.
Yeah, and another series that I'm super excited to watch out for here is going to be that Cloud9 versus Golden Guardians one as well, just because I do want to see the adaptation of Cloud9, another one of those teams that we've seen kind of pick up its pace over the past couple of weeks. They're really starting to cultivate some of their talent. We have Schernfire Copy, King Isles being helped out by ex-professional Darshan, who was in the LCS for so long. So I'm excited to see how this Cloud9 team roster continues to develop over the upcoming weeks.
That was very funny. The Darshan, the ex-professional, the top lane ex-professional. Yeah, former pro, but whatever. The bot lane of Cloud9, I think it's been really impressive. You know that when you have Darshan, things tend to go towards the top side of the map because he's proficient in these carries, but King is just so good. He didn't get to play last year, and then you've got Isles, so now another support from down under that can help him out. So I think that this is a really strong team, and it always happens that Cloud9 ramps up towards the end of Academy season. They struggle a little bit at the start and then turn up. Their struggle was one game, so this is a team that can contest against the top echelons once they get warmed up.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see, because not only do they have that warm-up factor, as you mentioned, but they also tend to play a little bit different than any other team we see. Cloud9 really likes to take some liberties with their drafting and with how they play the game, and something we've noticed a little bit in Academy more than anywhere else is a bit of that double Moonstone bot lane being played. Cloud9 has played it twice now, using the Seraphine as an AD carry, allowing her to farm and get towards that Groomstone, the water staff, and the Moonstone, and just making an unkillable team ball fighting team composition.
And I think partially they felt comfortable because it was the start of the season, but I think that a lot of these teams are taking inspiration from all over the world to try it out. We've heard from other analysts around the world that Academy regions tend to be quicker to experiment than the LCS. They feel like they've got less to lose, so maybe we'll see more today because the meta keeps evolving as all the regions start to wake up.
Yeah, and It will be super excited. We are going to be hopping into some highlights. Those we're going to be pulling up for this first game of the first series of today. We do have CLG versus Dignitas, as we mentioned before. So we got some highlights that are going to be popping up on screen for you guys right here. And last week, they did not get a win on their final game, but they were exciting to watch nonetheless.
And you got Wild Turtle back in the roster here, and you also have Pobelter, I believe, will be playing today on mid lane. So the CLG squad bringing the old guard back and trying to get some more wins, despite RJ's having been a pretty important factor in a lot of their wins.
Yeah,
well, they're one win. Sorry, they're one win. I don't want to say lots of their wins.
Well, one win is better than no wins. I am glad to announce that as of last week, we do have every team in Academy does have at least one win. But as you mentioned, Wild Turtle was subbing in. Pobelter will be subbing in this week as well. Hopefully, we're going to be able to see some more action coming out from them, especially considering that they are placing up against Dignitas today, which is another one of those 1-3 teams. And so hopefully we could see a bit of competition here on the lower end of the Academy bracket.
I think the tragedy with Dignitas is that you have a lot of veteran players there in Acadian, Lorlo, even Yasui, kind of a veteran to the Academy scene. And the fact that they were unable to make this roster work feels like, okay, these are pieces that individually may have worked in other teams, but together, this doesn't seem like the right mix. They still are struggling quite a bit. And against the CLG that's popping off with all these roster changes, it's going to be tough for Dig. They don't seem to be that inspired.
Yeah, and I think an issue that we've been having with Dignitas is we try and maybe look over some replays of theirs as well, is that we're going to see it's very split up between these pro players. It seems like they all kind of have an idea of what they want to be doing because they were coming off of the LCS and now they're back down to Academy here. And so they want to try and just fight constantly, but they're not always on the same page, whereas other teams that are in the Academy are working together on the coordination, making sure that they're all on the same page with one another. And it just feels like Dignitas isn't quite as combined of a unit as we had hoping they'd be.
Yeah, and the last time they played, I think a big problem was that their drafting doesn't tend to allow them to really capitalize out of what each champion gets. And you see here that, you have the champions like Udyr that don't really have a lot of help. And in this matchup against Cloud9, Yasui just got completely obliterated in the mid lane. He literally never got out beyond his turret. He was 0-3 in the laning phase, and so the pressure that Cloud9 could spill over from that to the sides of the map meant that Dignitas literally never got off the ground. The mid gap was too big. That happened because you drafted a Yone in a situation where the lanes and jungle were not supporting him, and that is why I'm saying the draft has to be looked at to set up your lanes, and then you can start to play a little more cohesive. Because if you never got to team fight, there was a big problem. No matter what you did, you need to get out of laning phase first.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of something that we should be taking a look at throughout the entire day, though. I personally love analyzing drafts. I think they're one of the most intricate parts of the game, because while in-game execution is huge and vital, how easy it is for you to win the game does kind of start in the drafting phase. How many tools do you give your team? How many tools do you give each of your individual players to be able to play to their strengths and build a cohesive unit? So going into today's games, I do want to see how these teams draft. We've been seeing a lot of different adaptations over the past couple of weeks, and as we were mentioning earlier, Academy teams are willing to take just a little bit more risk. So I'm excited to see if there might be some new interesting picks. For me personally, I've heard rumors of a new Senna build coming up that I personally want to see some of these players play out today.
Is that the Rageblade one we saw over in the LEC?
Absolutely. Kraken Slayer into Rageblade, the infinite scaling support Senna. It also works really well with that Moonstone bot lane because you can run a Seraphine with it. So you still play very passive in the bottom lane, that kind of double heal, double supportive style. But with Senna being an AD carry alongside the healing she has, it's just so much damage and yet so much sustain. It's a little disgusting, if I'm not going to lie here.
Senna is really nasty right now. I'm not sure why she got put back into the meta when all the healing was taking off. You're like, you know what? We need more healing. And by the way, why don't we buff Soraka while we're at it too? News, Soraka got buffed for some reason in the past patch, so that champion might pop off, which we might see in even the Cloud9 game. They like to experiment with the enchanters like you were talking about. But yeah, Senna, that build, is interesting, but more than anything, you just have to be good at Senna. It doesn't really matter what you're building about it right now. You'll see that if Reckless builds it, Sven builds something else. It's like, well, the fact that they got so good in the laning phase and were able to then transition that into good team fights without dying was what got them to the strength point, because they need those soul stacks anyways to actually hit the range for the Kraken Slayer, for the Rage Blade, for whatever Duskblade build you want to go for. So first be good, then look at the builds.
First, be good. You heard it here from a pro, folks. You got to be able to play the champion in order to make the weird builds work. But it is super exciting to see these kinds of new adaptations coming into the draft. We are getting ready for champion select in just a few seconds here. I want to go to you, Crumbs. Is there any particular picks that you're looking for hopping into this first game? Anything you're excited to see?
It's got to be Pobelter in Academy. Pobelter versus Yusui, I think, is a matchup we never knew we were going to get, and now we see it. Yusui loves to just bop people, but we're going to just jump into Champ Select right now and just see what they've got to say. Enough talking. Let's see what these teams have to say and put on the Rift.
Yes, the first start to our first game here in week 3 here. Camille being banned right away by the side of CLG Academy. Syndra also being taken off the board by Dignitas. A couple of fairly standard bans so far, as we see the Nidalee coming in as well. Nothing too surprising, just kind of some general, I don't want to see this series or this game, so taking it away from their opponents.
Yeah, Nidalee, one that Acadian was piloting a few times. I mean, it mostly depends on the setup that he has for him to pop off, but it's something that Keel might not feel comfortable against, because if a Nidalee starts getting ahead of you, you are in a lot of trouble. There are a lot of more jungle picks available right now. It is 11.2 and they haven't been touched. You've got Udyr that was first picked in a lot of places around the world, even in the lock-in. You've got Olaf, who's still very viable, and we've even seen Nocturne start to pop off because of the recent buffs. It's not something that you're prioritizing, but him, Talia, all these very fast clearers are still up, so there's a ton of options for the CLG camp, and it's just whatever draft they want that they should go for. I think a pick like Udyr, Olaf is just so safe right now. Put a bunch of crowd control around it and help Pobelter power it up. So love this first pick already.
Yeah, and I do like to see that the final ban coming in from Dignitas Academy here was going to be that Senna. I was just about to say, as you were calling off all these different champions, Olaf and Udyr both up and available. So Udyr being the priority pick for CLG Academy here. Meanwhile, Thresh and Olaf are going to be picked up by Dignitas Academy here. So countering one strong jungler with another one. Thresh also a very strong support at the moment, typically paired with Aphelios. So I'm interested to see if CLG is going to try and take that one away so that Spawn can't play it himself, since it is a very powerful red side duo combo that you can pick up here. So they picked up half of that combo. Meanwhile, CLG is going to be picking up Orianna and then pairing it with a little bit of a wombo combo. They got the Misfortune coming out, so they're going to try and do a double carry team wipe composition. It looks like they have started for themselves here.
I really like this pick for CLG. Not only are you blinding Pobelter's champion, which he should, he's playing an academy for Pobelter is playing academy. He has to be able to pop off on Orianna. And it's a good synergy with Udyr shielding and speeding him up, but also really tough for Olaf to deal with Orianna. I know there's a lot of times where Orianna's misposition and get killed by Olaf, but Orianna in reality should never get hit by Olaf, because what you do is you QWE and you have face rush and you just run away from him. It's that easy. Just don't get in melee range and freaking walk out. So I think that this looks good for CLG, and Dignitas is just playing super standard right now. There is not a lot of spice out of this draft. They're keeping it concealed, and it's a good way to go about trying to get your second win, just playing very standard and seeing if the champion strength is all you needed to do.
Yeah, they're putting a little bit more of their eggs into the Yasui basket here as well. I was mentioning the Aphelios earlier, instead picking up the Azir, so a scaling mid lane control mage for Yasui on Dignitas Academy. I'm expecting that the champ pool for the bot lane will be pinched here. AD carry has already been picked up by CLG, so expecting that Aphelios bound, sure enough, comes through here. They're not going to give over that Aphelios Thresh combo for free, especially when you leave open that AD carry position for the counter pick here. Now, what is it that's going to be pinched up by Dignitas? It looks like they're going to pick up Renekton, super strong top laner, and as well the Alistar, not wanting to give over that strong support in the bottom lane. Another AD carry and Jhin is banned out here, so I would expect Dignitas is going to lock in maybe a Kaisa or some kind of AD carry here just to be able to match the Misfortune and leave that counter pick, that final pick for their top laner in Lordla.
Exactly. You're not getting much from counter picking AD here, unless you want to get crazy and put a Azir into the bottom lane, which would just be a waste of a pick here. So just lock in your AD right away. It's gonna be Kalista, so very aggressive bottom lane here. I don't know how I feel about this. You really need to snowball very quickly with the Kalista Thresh, because against the MF and Udyr Orianna, you're just going to get run down. There's not a lot of kiting that you can outplay here. Kalista against a champion like Olaf, I totally get. You can dance around him, but Udyr just points, clicks at you, and just waits until the stun connects. So that's as easy as a champion is. If I'm Udyr, I'm loving who I have to try to outplay. Now you have a Leona to set you up further to CC anybody that's in the way, and we get to see what the blind champion top is going to be. A Gangplank would make the AoE team fighting out of CLG just absolutely bonkers, and there are champions that could disrupt the CLG formation here. You still have picks like Gragas, but against Gnar or GP, they're going to be strong lane bullies, so Lorlo's going to have his work cut out for him to get to those team fighting stages.
Gnar will be the final lock-in in here for CLG, and I'm not a huge fan of the Gnar meta that's been coming out in the top lane. I feel like it can be dealt with pretty easily, but Dignitas already did the hard part of this job for CLG in banning Renekton. It's a typical matchup we've been seeing a lot over the past couple of weeks, and it's really hit or miss. Gnar doesn't always win that matchup. Some people think he does because of the range and the ability to disengage whenever Renekton goes in. Then you also get games where Renekton just kind of pops off, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. So I am interested to see how this Gangplank is going to be fitting into the Dignitas Academy
I hate it.
Final composition here. You hate it?
Hate it. Hate it. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm looking at the Dig draft, and you're just trying to picture, how does Dignitas find a team fight, right? How do you catch somebody? You don't.
Death sentence? Undertow?
You have, right, it's death sentence. You need the bottom lane to pop off. If Gangplank can't catch anyone by himself, same thing with the Olaf, he's not running down these champions, and the Azir shuffle is only level 6, and even that's unreliable. So the tools that Dignitas have depend on them being ahead in the laning phase and then making it so easy that they can just insta-give anyone, but that is always way more difficult to pull off than it sounds, and that is why you usually just pick hard engage, because you can find those picks very easily.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to talk about when casting the amateur scene is definitely ease of execution when it comes to these teams. These are the academy rosters. They are still learning synergy. They are still learning how to play together and play at the top professional level of play. And when it comes to drafting, you want to give them maybe something that's a little bit easier to be able to execute upon. And when you have Gnar, you have Leona, you have Orianna, it's a fairly straightforward composition. You also, as you said, Udyr, super easy. Man, Bear Pig just runs up and slaps you really quick so that you can't move anywhere, and suddenly your Kalista can't be jumping around, can't be doing what she wants to be doing in these team fights. So it's just a much easier CC team fight for CLG to pull off here. And I have to agree, while Gangplank is another great scaling pick in the top lane for Dignitas, and you could potentially see them just outscale. That's not going to be until 35-40 minutes into this game, if it goes that long. We've seen most of these games end pre-30 minutes in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly. You need to be able to fight very early on. So counting on scaling can work, but you have to wonder, what tools do you have to then get to that point? Because if you don't have the way to stop the bleeding or slow the game down, then whatever scaling you have is never going to be relevant to the pace that the enemy team has enforced on you. So GP versus the Gnar, obviously you want him to be in isolation. Same thing with the junglers, just power farming, but you just have such an easier time on the side of CLG to gank top lane. You can dive Lorlo with Gnar and Udyr. You can really dive the Gnar with the Olaf Gangplank, unless he really messes up, right? Unless he overextends, he's low, or you've got control over the wave and you can dive him at mini. So Dig really counting on CLG to make a lot more mistakes, but we are in Academy and mistakes are the story here. Mistakes and aggression. So there is a chance, there is always a chance. It's just the odds are stacked against you.
Yeah, and if there's going to be any lane that I'm looking at for Dignitas Academy here to be able to pull out that victory, it is going to be towards the bottom half of the map. We were mentioning it before. Kalista Thresh is kind of a classic combo. Kalista could pull Thresh out of a bad situation, and Thresh, vice versa, pull Kalista out of a bad situation. A very aggressive, very early game focused bot lane here for Dignitas. And so if they're able to get a lead onto Spawn and JJ using the hooks and the flays in order to prevent Katsuri and Hooks from being able to get onto Kalista, then they have an opportunity to look for some plays themselves. They can easily pick up a couple of dragons with how strong Olaf is at picking up early game objectives. Alongside the Kalista Ren, they could try and play that breakneck pace if they're able to get rolling towards the bottom side of the map. But that's, again, a very big if for the side of Dignitas here. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to execution. We can keep looking at these drafts as many times as we want, but it really does matter how the games play out.
You got to camp bot lane. Absolutely have to camp the bottom lane. That is the way that Dignitas can win this game. You mentioned it. If they pop off, if they start getting really far ahead, then they can use that mid-game advantage that Kalista will have just from being very strong at that stage and try to snowball, control objectives. They are on red side, so they could have an easier time with Olaf power farming and clearing those dragons. So if they focus and really hone in on those specific things as their win conditions, I think they can start to get off with a good start. It's now up to CLG to recognize, hey, what is Dignitas trying to do? And can we stop it? Because they certainly can. A champion like Udyr running Ghost is thinking all about those counter ganks.
Counter gigs indeed. The early game will tell a lot for both of these teams, and that's kind of just where we've been at in the meta for a while. The early game proactivity, especially in Academy, it makes a massive difference from team to team. Whatever team is able to find the early game leads is going to be able to pull out ahead. And as we were mentioning, it's a very early game focused meta at the moment. And so we got a couple of scaling picks on the side of Dignitas, a little bit more of a team fight. It looks like production is telling us that we might have to redo draft here. We've been having some technical difficulties, so thank you everyone in chat for being patient with us as we are trying to get ready for this first game of the series. It's a new week, new tech issues. It happens.
Yeah, it's online world, all right? That's just the reality that we have today. It's not a big deal. We've all had lag before, and I think we now know about internet throttling, so that's another interesting thing that we all got to deal with.
I think production was just telling us we might be throwing it to break. Can I get a confirmation? And then we'll let you guys know what's going on as soon as we do. But we are going to be going over to break here, so don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes once these tech issues have been resolved. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we're going to be hopping back into this series here. For everyone at home, we got a quick update for you. Looks like the technical issue was client side. They were trying to trade champions after they locked in their picks. It wasn't happening, so you can't have an Udi or play AD carrying the bottom lane or something like that. You know, it would be a little bit of an issue. So we got that resolved. The champion selection will stay true, so we're going to keep the same picks that you guys saw on screen. It just took us a little bit more time to get into game than normal.
Hey, we just got to make sure that everyone has their champions. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair to say, oh, yeah, we beat you, but you didn't have the right players playing it. We're fine. We're going to start the game up real soon.
It might have been Pobelter's debut on support for sure today if you'd been able to switch that around. We don't know who had the wrong champion, but all that matters is that we do have the game coming to you live in just a short second here. So it should be an exciting series for sure. I'm super eager to see how Pobelter is going to be able to mesh with the CLG Academy roster as well, since this is his first time coming down into the Academy and playing on stream with us today.
He did play a game or two last year, if I'm not mistaken. I think that he had a Orianna game and he was really good at it again, but it was mostly because of his farming ability. So it looked like when Pobelter played down, being a former pro, he just figured, well, I don't know how to work around this new team, but what I do know is I know how to power farm, right? I know how to get myself very far ahead and be a relevant threat in a team fight. That's why he picks a champion like Orianna. You don't need that much of your team. You help them if they get into a pickle, and you can just carry with your shockwaves and your high CS numbers, plus a very strong laning phase. So this pick should give him all the tools necessary to smurf in Academy.
Yeah, Orianna is such a safe champion to play in the mid lane. It's kind of one of those champions that if you're going into Academy, if you're going into LCS, you kind of have to have this under your belt. Just such a meta champion that we've seen for years. Any mid laner worth their penny has a good Orianna underneath their belt. So super excited to see how Pobelter is going to be able to make that champion fit and work into the CLG Academy roster today. On the other side, though, Yasui getting an opportunity as well to play against an LCS pro to face his medal versus that of Pobelter. So it should be a very exciting opportunity for him as well.
Usually, I get really excited about Yasui when he has unorthodox champion, something that is not a standard control mage. So Silas is, Yone is, AD's in the mid lane, just weird things. But we're going to hop right into the game and see how his Azir actually does against the Pobelter Orianna.
Yeah, as we're hopping into the first game here of week 3, day 1 on the Rift, we do have CLG on the blue side, Dignitas hitting it up on the red side. It looks like some standard 5 points starting off our very first match of the day, so nothing quite too exciting just yet into this game, but I'm hoping we do get at least one level 1 invade later on in the day. I live for the level 1 shenanigans.
If the champions are right, they'd go for it. I think neither feels particularly confident because of the lack of CC on both sides. You know, Dig has Undertow and Hook. That's about it. So unless you catch somebody really out by themselves, you're not going to commit on that chase. So just a standard point defense. And with Kalista not using her spear right now to bind JJ, don't think that that's a mistake really out of spawn. It's that they need to make it into the lane right away. If they were to chain those, do the soulbound in the base, they wouldn't have made it for the 5-point defense and would have been in potential danger for an invade.
It's the little things, crumbs, that make the difference between the pro scene and just high tier solo queue. Waiting until you're out on the Rift to do your execution with the Kalista passive there so that you can make sure you're there in time for the 5-point. It is going to be just a standard start. Both junglers starting on their blue sides is a little bit more of a trend that we've seen. Back in the old days, we used to see a lot of bottom side starts just so you can get a leash, but these days the jungle seems a tad bit easier to clear, so Udyr able to clear that blue buff by himself on the top side of the map, so we're going to have counter sides on the map for both of these junglers.
It's funny, the jungler is easier to clear. You have more sustain now with the new machete items, but the team that won lock-in, Team Liquid, was leashing every single time. The bottom lane was non-stop leashing for their jungler, so I think there's something to it to be able to leash for your support, even though you can concede the initial lane pressure into the bottom lane. If you know how to turn it into an all-in from a level disadvantage, to use that surprising level acquisition to get an advantage that way, then not only do you win the bottom lane, but also get your jungler ahead. So I think there is something to be said, though, if Team Liquid is getting all these leashes and they have the best support in the league right now, I would think about leashing for my jungler.
Yeah, and I think a large part of that comes down to how heavily farming the meta is based for the jungle right now. You have Udyr, Olaf, Talia, Graves, Nidalee, all these super fast farming junglers that want to do full clears into ganks, that want to be constantly rotating all their camps through as quickly as possible. And so getting that little bit of an extra leash for Team Liquid means that their jungler can take their first buff faster and get into their second camp, and just they start off with a slightly faster speed and they're able to just accelerate it from there. As we do see Keel on the bottom side of this map, he's already hit level 4 and is going to be able to trade scuttles with this Olaf. So bottom scuttle going to CLG, meanwhile top side going over to Dignitas. So still fairly standard starts.
Very standard, because now both junglers actually have identical routes, just mirrored. So Udyr will base and try to go to the top side and keep pathing to the bottom side, while Olaf's base will go to blue side and start to path to the top side. And here's where it gets really interesting in how the junglers will keep the respawn timers on these camps, because ideally, yeah, you want to keep power farming, clear all your camps, but how do you now divide your time between clearing and the lanes that you'd like to help? So that is where the camp spawn time gets out of sync, and it's suddenly a jungler can be their own worst nightmare in clearing those camps because they have messed them all up.
Yeah, we see a little bit of a disrespectful cancel on that pack there by Pole Belter, walking up to Yasui and said, "You don't get the cheese recall right just quite yet." So it is going to be both these junglers, once again, as you mentioned, going back towards their top side or bottom side of the jungle, respectively, just clearing out their camps on spawn, on rotation here. And we have yet to see any action this game. 4.5 minutes in, no ganks, no real trades coming out either. I will note that spawn is a little bit low on mana, so this Callista's been trying to shove in this wave, trying to get a CS advantage by forcing these minions underneath turret. But even then, the largest CS differential we're seeing is towards this middle or top side of the map.
Yeah, when you let the Gangplank entirely by himself, he has a great time in a lot of matchups. So we knew that he was going to be fine because he got to pick into the Gnar, but our worry was always, well, how is he going to team fight now? And just as I was saying about Acadian's pathing, look at what he's done. Instead of going towards the top Krugs to get that camp, he's now pathing towards the bottom side, potentially thinking of the crab or the dragon, maybe even a gank. But this is all warded and very dangerous territory. Acadian can be in a world of trouble. Oh yes, the counter gank is coming. Udyr is here.
Ooh, that's going to be a death sentence landing, though. The lantern comes out. They're going straight onto this misfortune. First blow will be going over. JJ picks that one up. Akil is here as well, but it's a little too late. He wasn't able to make it into the fight in time, and it's just going to be that one kill picked up. Fortunately, Udyr keeps Hooks alive, but first blood going over to the bottom lane of Dignitas, and might they look for this dragon after shoving out this wave?
Man, I would have liked to see CLG commit a little bit more to keeping Katsuri alive there. He still had the heal. I think if the heal would have been committed, maybe the Udyr is able to trade a single kill. JJ have no summoners and no heal again. So let's take a look at how this happens, because they're trying to crash the wave, yet their jungler is here. It's a great Lancer, but unfortunately the flash hook, the heal as well would have... Yeah, he was ignited, so maybe the heal just wouldn't have been right. Now that I see it, you're very hopeful because the Udyr was there, but it just doesn't look like, with the hook going actually connecting, he was not going to make it out.
Lollipop on that death sentence means that Katsuri gets punished for the straight flash. You never want to flash in a straight line there. And as you said, I was actually really hoping that CLG would turn that one around as well. Maybe if MF had gone for like a sideways flash, they could have been able to allow Udyr to run in and help with that one, seeing as how JJ had just committed a flash of his own. But it's all hindsight is 2020. JJ is on the top side of this map. The support has already left his lane with those Moby boots, so he's looking to try and help this Gangplank get rolling towards his top side of the map. Dian is going to commit the Gnar ultimate. That's a death sentence over the wall, though. He finds a cheeky hook through the corner. He's going to be able to get the flame now that Mini Gnar has come out. Not quite going to be able to cancel that jump away, so Thean will stay alive for now, but JJ has showed his Cypher on the top side of the map.
Okay, so he showed up initially to help Gangplank crash the wave, even gives him a little control ward, help out his bro, and this is going to allow Gangplank to continue to power farm and build up himself to be a big threat here. And it's an interesting use of that pressure from JJ, because now he gets to go back and Kalista is shoved in. But what does Hooks and Katsuri do now? Because now they're the ones that have first move, and they could use this to maybe affect the mid lane or pair up with the jungler. So right now our eyes are on Hooks, who is trying to answer whatever JJ has done. He'll only get a ward and return to the lane.
Yeah, not going to be able to find too much for the bottom lane of CLG here. Dragon was picked up by Dignitas, so they were able to find that first objective of the map after their first blood in the bottom lane. Then straight back to power farming it is for both of these junglers. I do want to note another kind of benefit to JJ going up to the top lane is allowing Lorlo to constantly pressure at the end. He's not going to be able to take many more trades now that he already lost half of his health. So the CS differential in the top lane is going to be slowly expanding as well, because it just means this Gnar is that much more afraid to go for trades into Lorlo, into this gangplank, or else he might go down, since level 6s have been hit across the board.
Oh, they have been hit, yet the junglers are still not really reacting to it. They're still power farming, trying to match those camps. As you see, the routes are still the same, but now that the Rift Herald is available for these junglers to maybe solo, there could be a more attention spent in the top side of the map, and Acadian will be the first one here, trying to make sure that they can catch this Gnar. If he's trying to fight with the wave, no minions. If he turns Mega Gnar and commits, he is so dead. Oh, he's dead.
Mega Gnar coming out here. He's going to use the Gnar in order to try and throw back the jungler, but no, Acadian pops a Ragnarok. That's going to be the kind of rush committed as well. Kill coming in. They didn't get him. He's still healthy. Kill comes running in. Bear Slap comes in. Acadian's dropping down extremely low, but he's going to be able to keep himself alive with the life steal that Olaf provides. Lorlo barely not able to finish off the end there or kill with that final parlay. So a lot of ultimates, a lot of health bars dropping down extremely low, but nobody's going to be going down.
Dang, that was so close again. Almost with a good counter gank, but there just was not enough damage or enough of a commitment. It would have been crazy close. So I see why CLG didn't commit for it. They're thinking, listen, we got away with our life. We are still going to catch a little bit of this wave. We won't be denied. So there's no need to try to get this kill, because you saw that the Udyr damage was really not very high in that situation. Not able to crack through the Olaf, barely hurting the gangplank, despite it being that Phoenix and Tiger. And I think part of it was he didn't really combo properly. From what I saw, it looked like he didn't open up with the Tiger proc so that the Phoenix would be faster. I think he went Bear into Phoenix, into then Tiger to try to do a little dot damage to the Olaf afterwards. So minor mechanics things, but it is Udyr. He's very simple, but you got to get them right.
Yeah, the little differences, once again, that make or break games like this. It's the difference between picking up 2 kills there and letting the top lane and jungle of Dignitas walk away from free here. And Crumbs, I gotta ask you, because I'm a little split on my opinion here. This early game has been going by so slowly. 1 kill in 10.5 minutes here, and only an 800 gold difference. The biggest CS differential we're seeing, again, towards that top side of the map. Lorlo has received a couple of ganks. Who does this really favor there? Because Olaf traditionally falls off as the game goes longer, and Udyr will get tanky and be hard to deal with, but you're also facing Azir and Gangplank, so I'm not sure if Dignitas really hates the position that they're in when it comes to how slow this game is going. And which one of these teams do you think is favoring this early game, as we do see CLG picking up a Rift Herald for free here, as Dragon is also going to be spawning on the map?
It's weird because Dignitas is getting a lot of leads. Wait a minute, Katsuri has flash and heal, but he's dead again.
Oh yeah, that's a flash flay coming in by JJ. Their death sentence not committed. Death sentence misses, but the undertow into the ignite will finish off Katsuri there. So once again, the misfortune going down, but the support picking up 2 kills.
Yeah, so I thought this could benefit CLG, since I like what happens when they group up, but these CS advantages are too large now, Icarus. The Kalista is really popping off, and we thought this would be an important place for Dignitas to get ahead from. They're turning these into dragons, just as we suspected would have been their plan. So I'm really liking what Dignitas has thus far. It's just a matter of, can Kalista be strong enough to outplay during these team fights? And when it comes to accelerating the pace on the side of CLG, I think a big problem was actually the Ghost on the Udyr, because you don't have good ways to outplay a lot of the things that Dignitas has. The Ghost is not going to help you versus a champion like Thresh. You really would like the Flash instead. Same thing with a champion like Azir. Being able to flash with a Shockwave is a big deal, and here Katsuri is just by himself, and there was no way that he was going to make it out. His flash is going to be followed up by Thresh's flash, who already is faster and coming in at him from an angle. So the fact that Leona wasn't there was a good recognition from Dignitas to now punish the AD and get more gold in their win condition bot lane.
Yeah, CLG is going to be countering the play bot lane with a Rift Herald drop on the top side of the map. Thean finally getting some help from his own jungler here. Is going to be able to break that first turret, pick up all those platings and first brick of the game. So a nice chunk of change thrown into the pocket of the top laner CLG. And once again, we find ourselves at a completely even game. 2 dragons have been secured by Dignitas though. So they're already working towards, again, that bottom side win condition that we were mentioning. Spawn on Kalista, 20 CS up, and they have 2 dragons working towards that mountain soul, yes, for this game. So it should be they're already halfway there, and maybe in another 10 minutes or so we're going to see Dignitas really start to become a scary team here if they're able to pick up that extra shielding and magic resistance for themselves.
Yeah, that really would actually allow them to perhaps survive the initial engage of CLG, and that would be very powerful against a composition that wants to team fight against you. So they have found the avenues that I think allow for this composition to be even or ahead and even compete in the team fight against CLG. They just have to make sure that they play the fights out well. A big problem that often happens with these kinds of champions like Olaf is you overdive and then you just die and lose a big gold lead. You don't want to see that happen again. Here, Dignitas threatens a dive, but once again, Udyr is nearby, and they don't want to go an over-commit for this. They could get a little extra play, but they're getting all the pressure that they want, and if they can just keep this up, they'll get that dragon. They should keep their eyes on that and not give away the advantage they have right now that lets them have that free setup.
Yeah, Pobelter also bleeding down towards that bottom side of the map. He was starting to roam over, so with the mid laner CLG missing, Dignitas did not want to overcommit to a potential 3v4 on the bottom side of the map and committing to the cardinal sin of one too many dives, giving over a huge gold lead, as you mentioned, with this Olaf pick. So back to farming across the board. Both of these junglers just clearing camp after camp as they're cresting over that 100 CS mark apiece for these junglers, and I'm interested to see as we start getting into this mid game of the series, or the mid game of this game, that when are we going to start seeing these teams grouping up? Because so far neither one of these teams are really making that move towards the objective first. I'm expecting this next Rift Herald is going to be, or the next Dragon is going to be where the first real team fight breaks out between these 2 teams.
You'd hope so. You'd really do. I think for everyone's sake involved, you got to keep the pace of the game a little bit accelerated here, because it doesn't feel like any team is making big moves towards winning. It feels like a lot of them are just content with the pace of the game and aren't being particularly assertive. Just a little bit of damage, shoving out the wave, making sure that Lorlo doesn't have an opportunity to freeze it. His ultimate will be back up by the time that the dragon spawns again, so I like this move. Oftentimes I think we look at people using their ultimate in the laning phase aggressively as a big mistake, but if it allows you to keep the pressure up, maybe get a little turret chunk, have first priority, then you get a man advantage. And what would you rather have? 5-on-5 with ult or 4-on-5 without your ultimate? I'll take the 5v4, sorry.
Yeah, and Thean, with that Gnar buff that came out months ago, the Gnar ultimate's on an extremely low cooldown, so it's already 3/4 of the way back, and he hasn't even hit a second Mega Gnar yet. Typically, it's going to be available for every Mega Gnar form that you have. Thean also does have that teleport available for himself, so Warlow does not have the TP available. Cannon Barrage is up, but that means that you can have a whole extra body here on the bottom side of the map, and we already see Dignitas trying to get Gangplank out of this top lane, trying to get Lorlo back to base so he can buy items and get prepared for this next dragon, which will be spawning in about 25 seconds here. Meanwhile, Thean just continues to shove in this lane, but JJ, yep, he's behind this Gangplank here. Are they going to be able to find a play onto him? Lantern comes out, the Flay being held onto, the box comes out, flash over the wall, the death sentence does find True, and JJ on a killing spree. The Dignitas support is looking to carry this game.
Okay, so first question I have after seeing that play is, did Dignitas say to give up the dragon for this? Because committing your support to ultimates and flashes for this move, you're giving this up right now. right? You are now trading the dragon that would have put you on soul point for denying the Gnar and maybe crashing a wave top for your gangplank. So yes, you get a kill, but I wonder in the grand scheme of things, does this line up with the game plan that Dignitas had altogether? And personally, I don't think it does. I think they had a better avenue fighting topside with the Gangplank ultimate for the Dragon. Now they're a little bit slower, and I think it opens up CLG to get a little bit more farm, stall the game out a little bit longer, and there's always the threat of the Wombo combo from these kinds of comps.
The Wombo combo always terrifying. Dignitas are going to be able to pick up the Rift Herald on top of the top lane turret. So a couple of extra objectives, as you were mentioning, though they did give up the first Mountain Drake of this game, so CLG finally putting one on the board for themselves when it comes to neutral objectives here. And let's take a look at that top lane fight once again. Crumbs, you want to break this one down for me?
A nice and easy blast gun. Thien is still just pushing up here because he thinks that Dignitas is going for Dragon. So he has no problem overextending, thinking, all right, GP's going to stay up here, maybe use his ultimate. And it's just a very easy kill. It's mini Gnar. They would have even been able to kill him in Mega. He is not a tank. He's gone for the Stride Breaker team fighting split push, so he is very easy to kill.
Yeah, and I like to see these kind of proactive plays coming up by Dignitas, but again, giving up that dragon, not the best of situations. What's really going to make or break that play for me is going to be how they decide to use this Rift Herald. It is going to be the second Shelly of this game, so I'm expecting it to be used towards that middle lane in order to break open this map. We do already have the top and bot lane outer turrets broken by the side of Dignitas, so they just want to try and break this middle portion of the map to start opening up the vision, opening up the map so they can get some deeper wards into the enemy jungle and start to take over this game. They have accrued themselves a 2,500 gold lead for themselves, and already we see them posturing very aggressively here. Pole Builder will find them, and they're just going to walk away from this one. They don't want to force any fights just quite yet, and it seems like that's kind of just the story of this game.
Dig can't force a fight. They really cannot. It's hooks, right? It's hooks and people overextending. That's been the way they get a kill. But here goes Leona.
That's going to be the Leona force of the fight for sure. The Herald's going to be dropping to break the trip, and one more death sentence will find hooks, so it's a hook onto a hooks. And now Azir comes in. Yasui finds the Shurima Shuffle. Bullet time used to try and buy some time for the rest of the CLG Academy here, but is going to be able to find one kill onto Yasui, but not until after he's taken down Thien all alone on the backside of this fight. That Azir's Soldier turret also going to be doing so much work.
Oh, what a mess there. How many abilities were whiffed and initially engaging onto spawn, but the man's got cleanse. He's very quick and nimble. He can get out of Leona in a heartbeat, and the Udyr follow-ups is very tragic there, trying to catch onto the Kalista after that initial engage. Unfortunately, the shockwave missed, but Dignitas got everything there. They got 2 kills and the turret. So I think that's a worthwhile for them, even though you might have lost mid lane. CS for the Azir, you still now have 2 items completed on him. He's very strong, and so champions that are trying to run into your face, like Leona, Udyr, or Gnar, are gonna get shredded by these Sand Soldiers.
Yasui might have lost a wave and a half there, but he picked up 2 kills for himself, and to finally see some of those kills going on to anyone besides JJ is phenomenal here. Okay. I think it's funny that this fight starts.
Watch the shockwave. Oh, the shockwave, man. That's the big one. So, too late on Pobelter's engage there. He was hoping to catch Kalista, but Spawn did a good job in flashing away. And once that whiffs, it's a lot harder for you to CC the rest of the team, because the Leona is dead. It's only Udyr that has to put himself in melee ranges. This is why it gets really tricky when you don't have your Gnar there in Mega to combine with these other carries. They're just so weak to what Dignitas can do about them with their range.
And it was really interesting to see that fight started with a lot of ultimates being committed that kind of just didn't do anything. I think it was, for me in particular, what did it for me was that Spawn used his ultimate as well in order to get JJ into that fight. They might have been looking for a full dive when they used that Rift Herald, but because the Leona ultimate and the Shockwave came out at the exact same time, it forced Spawn to disengage, and when he flashed out, of course, Pobelter and Hook's ultimates fizzled, but then so did Spawn's. JJ wasn't really able to get back into the fight after that. Sure, the turret fell down and he was able to find a long-range death sentence, but it wasn't the full 5-man dive onto 3 members that they were looking for at the start of that play.
As you describe it, I think it's clear CLG just wasn't ready for the engage on Hooks. He was over the wall, too eager for it, and they're able to just quickly disengage and not get comboed out. Here we go, fighting for the Dragon Control. It's a 3rd Dragon Soul for Dignitas again, but with the Gangplank ultimate, CLG will disengage. And
yeah,
keep chasing, though.
They're going to keep going. Shockwave lands onto 2. The bullet time, though, is going to be flashed away from those. Going to be able to follow up on that one. CLGA is going to be able to find one more onto Acadian here. So Jungler for Dignitas will be falling down. Hooks isn't going to get hooked this time, but they're going towards Baron?
Okay, you have Kalista with Rend and a Azir that has Leandri's Anguish. With Nashor's Truth, this could be a big deal. There is no Alteration Trinket anymore. It got used, so they can potentially get CLG to face check. They won't do it, though.
The blue trinket from Katsuri there. Such a big brain move from the Misfortune in order to see out that Baron starting. As soon as that comes down, Dignitas cannot do it. 2 members of CLG on the bottom side of the map are able to pick up that Mountain Dragon. So now it's 2 Mountain Souls, 2 Mountain Drakes to the Infernal and Ocean Drake that were picked up by Dig early. And here's that team fight one more time.
Big miscommunication there with Acadian using his ultimate and JJ's Lantern at the same time, and then over committing for the chase when you don't have the Olaf ultimate. So yeah, you are going to go die after this play happens. There is no way to keep them locked down into the Gangplank ultimate, so it's a good move out of CLG knowing that, hey, we can fight. They just use a lot of major cooldowns.
A great turnaround by CLG there. They are trying their best to find those win conditions that we haven't really quite seen from them yet, as yet again Dignitas starting up this Baron extremely early. Nobody has come in to clear out this pink ward, but Keel coming in, pops that ghost. Hello, Udyr, you have arrived. He's gonna tell them no real quick.
They don't have to worry about anything except the Baron sneak right now. I think they started to reach the point where, hey, even that fight we lost in the mid lane was somewhat close despite whiffing everything. They've kept flashing away from Shockwaves and Misfortune ultimates. They're not going to have those flashes for every single fight, so they're bound to get a good one. And Dig's best bet is to try to sneak this objective right now. They're starting to feel that hurt. They can't lock down the CLG members before any of their own members get popped.
Yeah, and it's so scary for the side of Dignitas here because they're trying to commit everything they can to these team fights, and then they're just hitting themselves against hooks and Keel over and over again. And they've gotten a couple of good picks on a Katsuri in the early game, but since this mid game has started, they haven't really been able to find this Misfortune. And now they're looking for a deep invade once again here by Dignitas. Nothing's going to land. They're just trying to take away the red buff, but it will be secured by someone. I actually don't know where that went. Looks like Kenny was able to pick that one up. Keel's coming in here. He is trying to find and engage onto the members of Dignitas spawn in particular, but they will not. And once again, it is going to be just a back away by both of these teams here. Red buff, objective, secure.
There was no Poe Belter, and that's why CLG didn't want to take that fight. You saw how tempted they were. The Gangplanks just face-checking them. Olaf once again, Lantern was down, but without the Orianna, there is just no way they're going to be able to deal with what Dignitas has. So Poe Belter joining up with them again should give them the confidence to go for it. And now that the game stalled out even longer, Icarus, since no one is on Soul Point, we're just going to go the distance, and we have to start thinking about the scaling options for both teams. And I think both have fine scaling options, really. It's just a matter of the utility and crowd control, which is often overlooked, and it's hard to think about how it scales. Usually you just think of it as, can the support get the engage off without dying right away? Champion like Thresh, rarely, unless he's on a crazy pop-off game and just feeling every hook. He usually goes die when he goes in, but someone like Leona can engage without putting herself in harm's way. She's very tanky, has that ultimate, and would love to be followed up by the Orianna. So as long as Hooks can find the right engage, he should be able to lock down Dignitas members while JJ just starts to play Lantern duty.
Yeah, and even if Hooks isn't able to find the full engage that their team is looking for by CLG here, Thien, another great engage option. Udyr can always come up with those flanks once that ghost is up in just about another 30 seconds here. So once again, Dignitas feeling pressured, feeling like they have to start this Baron lest they start getting outscaled here. And I think they're really starting to feel the pressure of that draft issue we were saying earlier. Hooks is going to be going in and starting to fight. Yusui is already forced to use the ultimate in order to disengage, but Thien is on the back line. Is not going to be able to find anybody. He's going to get the Gnar straight onto spawn here, but the cleanse and flash, that is going to be the Kalista getting away. Nobody's gone down just quite yet, and it is just going to be an entire disengage by Dignitas Academy here. Nobody wants to fight this game. They both just want to scale. Give me some blood, Chrome.
No one is focusing the same target, Icarus. I'm losing it here. Everyone's using abilities on different targets, so they all get away. Look at what the heck just happened. Olaf is by himself with a new deer that has ghosts that can chase him down. They just let him run away. And then the Nara TPs, but he's not even Mega, so you can't combo that. Orianna Shockwave goes one way, Leona Ultimate is the other. You can have team fight tools, but if they're not used together, it just looks silly. No one is dying. There are still some ultimates available. The Shockwave is going to get used before the Dragon, but Acadian has red buff and he'll heal back up.
Yeah, Acadian does have red buff. He's also in Olaf. Give him this minion wave in the mid lane. He's going to be able to sustain a little bit. Keel might be looking for an engage here. He does have that ghost available for this team fight, so he might have more of an option when it comes to being able to full engage onto the opponent here. I have a little bit of a pause on my screen, so hopefully I'm not missing too much before this game continues here.
Yeah, I got one too, man, but we haven't really missed anything. I think we can assume that this next Dragon fight is not going to be fought over with people dying, and it won't be the game-winning play unless someone really gets wiped, right? If you lose a fight here, you lose Baron. So the teams should know, hey, even though this Dragon puts you on soul point, if you were able to take this Baron and take out more turrets, you get more map control and can set yourself up further. Maybe even win the game, get an inhibitor off a play like that. So team fight focus, team fight priority over the objective should be the key here, and we're just back to this. Did I not tell you, Icarus, that this was not going to be fought over? It was just going to be given up for no reason?
I mean, that's all I can get from jumping back into this one. Suddenly, Dignitas, though, find themselves on an inside track for that one. They have finally put themselves on soul point after missing the first two Mountain Drakes, so finally getting their hands on that neutral objective one more time here for the red side team, and it is mean that we're looking at about another 5 minutes until Soul, and even then CLG, we keep coming back to it. They have been playing these team fights and slowing down this game, preventing Dignitas from rolling away with these dragons quite well in the early game, and so they only need one more in order to put themselves on soul point as well. So I'm expecting this next Drake will be a huge fighting point, and I hope and pray we finally get that team fight we've been building up 28.5 minutes for so far.
Oh man, this feels like, you know, you got a bottle of soda and you're shaking it up, you're hoping for that big explosion, you leave it for a while, but sometimes when you shake those bottles up and you open it, it turns out all of the gas just fell out. There was never any gas in there, so here it could be that hook goes wide. That was the only way to engage on someone, so we'll have to wait for the cooldown to be back up before they try again. I think Dignitas just wants to hopefully to get a Baron sneak and bring CLG to them. The danger is in dealing with the fight inside the pit. It's Shockwave and Misfortune. They will murder you if you're all stacked in there. So I'd like to see them try to experiment with going over the wall, but I feel like a fight is about to break out, Icarus. This Gnar is mega.
Yeah, let's hope they're about to inject some Mentos into this soda of a game that we have here. Make it a real explosive one, but already we see Dignitas just walking away. Nobody wants to give it to me. Like, I'm itching for a team fight here. We're 30 minutes into this one. I've yet to get a good team fight going on. They just keep going towards this Baron, back and forth between the mid lane and the big purple worm. They're just trying to find whatever objective they can, and I want to see just land this hook on the kill. Watch him run up here, turn around, fight him. Just fight the Udyr here. They finally find one. That's going to be the Flay. That's going to be the flash, and just like that, Bien is going to be out of that fight. The box also committed there by JJ, so no full engage committed still by either one of these teams.
All right, just divide the win. Divide the win to both teams. 1.5 wins in CLG, 1.5 on Dig. Clearly they want a draw, right? These teams want a draw. I think we should make an exception and give it to them.
I mean, I'm willing to do it at this point as well. Drake is still about 2.5 minutes out, so 2.5 minutes until that team fight. If nobody fights for this dragon, I'm going onto Twitter and having an angry rant post about it. I don't know what I'm going to do because I've waited too long for this team fight. Your Azir is sitting at 3 items. Your Gangplank is sitting on 2.5. Dignitas is sitting 3,000 gold up, or at least 2,500. So at this stage in the game, any kind of early lead that they develop for themselves on the bottom side of the map is negligible at best, especially considering that all those kills went into the hands of JJ. So this is a fairly even game and has been for almost the entire 30 minutes that we've been sitting here.
It's unstoppable force versus the unmovable object. CLG having basically not good. They don't have very good synergy for engaging onto someone. And on the side of Dignitas, they have no way to engage, but a ton of disengage. Their champions are very difficult to pick. So that's what is stalling this game so much. Because think about it. Jasui can always dash. Olaf's got ultimate. Kalista's got cleanse on his Kalista. You've got Gangplank with oranges, and all of them have Thresh playing Lantern duties. So going out for a pick when you're Ghost, Udyr, or Leona is just never going to work out.
Yeah, and, you know, as much as we're kind of harping on these two teams for not taking any of these fights, it is at sometimes intelligent that they don't take these fights. We did see a lot of aggression coming out by both teams, and neither one of them feeling like they're set up to take the fight that they want in order to win here. We are about 50 seconds out till this next Drek, so already we see both of these teams starting to gather around the mid lane. They are trying to really pressure for ward coverage as this Drake, the sole point for Dignitas Academy, coming up here. And now we might finally be able to see some pressure, some team fight potential coming out by both of these teams here. And if Dignitas has the inside track, it's going to be so difficult for CLGA to get on top of them.
Okay, they only have a single ward and it's cleared out, so going for hooks here really difficult. JJ is not in a position to go for it, and before all this went down though, Acadian dropped a control ward in the back of the Baron pit, so if CLG goes for a fight, Dignitas could go for it. Udyr is ghosting in!
Ooh, Kill almost able to find his way on the spawn. That is going to be the cleanse used out of Kalista, so if they decide to re-engage with any other CC, Spawn will be going down. He will not have a way to disengage from that one if he gets caught out. Drake is spawned onto the map here, and Dignitas is sitting towards the inside of that river. CLG trying to find a way into this one.
Here's Meganar.
Are starting it. Meganar is going to be going forward here. He finds his way onto the Seaweed, but he's not going to be able to find Spawn. They're going to be fighting out this Nar. They have backed away. The end is too deep with nobody on his side to help him out there. Meanwhile, on the top side of the fight, Kitty is able to pick off Hooks, who was going for a rest of the engage, but the rest of Dignitas is able to back away. They find the Nar. They find the Mountain Soul. Not quite the explosive fight we were looking for, but the fight that Dignitas was looking for, is they're able to pick up that Mountain Soul, and now they're already rotating up towards this top side of the map with 2 members dead on CLG.
Azir has TP and Misfortune dashed in, but that's Fate's call.
Oh no, Katsuri, you committed a little too deep for this one. Lorlo has found you. You're going to be going down. Keel is dead as well. Udyr trying to redeem the mistakes of Katsuri, and now not only is it Soul, but Baron as well. Dignitas are going to blow this game wide open.
I am shaking my head, Icarus. That dragon fight looked so good. The Gnar was mega, but he went for a flank that seems to have been not in the side of, or the plan that CLG was going for. They found the 4-man engage while Gnar was still walking around. And so without his presence in that initial fight, they were not able to combo it down. You had Misfortune and Orianna doing a lot of damage, but there was no Mega Gnar. He just got picked off. And that gives Dignitas so much control here. That dragon fight should not have gone this way. Even the Baron could have been fought over, but Katsuri thought he'd get cheeky there, do a little harass before they went to the the Baron, and paid dearly for it.
Yeah, he committed the entire Gale Force to that little bit of harass as well, and without the flash and heal available for himself, or maybe did have it available, but it's not going to be enough in order to run away from 4 members of Dignitas running you down, including Lorlo, who is now sitting on that 3.5 completed items for Gangplank. Azir as well just completed his 4th, is now working on his final item alongside those boots there, and it's going to be a Morello's in order to stop Keel from being able to sustain so much in these team fights. So these couple of really scaling solo laners for Dignitas have finally started to come online here, completing the item power specs we need them to see, and they only get stronger from here. Gangplank and Azir known for being late game team fight devastating champions with those barrels and sand soldiers.
Yeah, they're just too strong now. The CLG engage has not found a single fight to be coordinated, and so they are just gonna have to deal with a ton of damage before they even get that fight. Look at the items on just GP. Triple crit with the shield bow and already with the last whisper, so he is just doing so much work. An engage attempt onto Azir, but now you lost the Leona ultimate and you're still gonna be looking about a fight in the next wave. It's gonna be even harder for them now. I don't like the use of that ultimate there. The best thing that could have happened would have been to combo with the shockwave, but even then, you don't have enough damage there to one-shot. You can dash out.
Once again, Hook's going for the Hail Mary there with the ultimate, and it's just not on the same page with the rest of the team. Meanwhile, Dignitas committing to this one entirely. That's going to be the dashboard from Kalista, using the ultimate as well in order to get JJ in there. Unfortunately, the death sentence will not land. Cannon Barrage was also committed in order to start that one off. So they are able to force off the entirety of CLG from that bot lane inhibitor turret. They're going to be rotating up to the mid lane as well. Try and find a second inhibitor for themselves here. They will be committing onto this one. Barrels come out, zoning away the entire side of CLG, and without that Leona ultimate, they feel afraid to start this one off. Heal goes forward, he finds one bear slap, but that's going to be it. It's on to JJ. Meanwhile, Acadian, it's this gangplank in the front lane. He has too many items to be able to kill right off the bat. CLG, they want to commit, but they're not committing here. Now it is Acadian that's going to be starting this one off. He pops the Ragnarok. He's just going straight forward on the kill, and he has the help of JJ here in order to make sure that he's not getting counter engaged on here. And just like that, CLG, without committing to that fight, lost half of their health bars and a second inhibitor.
Dude, their engage is just so obvious. It's so telegraphed. Udyr is ghosting at you from the lane. If you can't react to that, I mean, everyone reacts to it. That is why it is a lame engage. It's Leona and Udyr running straight at you. There is no surprise from the sides. We haven't seen CLG take advantage of different angles to try to deal with the mobility and disengage that Dignitas has. That's made it so ugly for these engages. The only time we saw something remotely flashy out of their engage that wasn't just, we see you, we're gonna jump on you, was when Leona dashed over the wall. When she was at the Raptor wall, E'd onto spawn, and they still lost that fight. So that moment might have scarred them and made their engage a lot more obvious, and Dignitas is reading it like a book.
And it's a shame that it scarred them, because that was the best engage that we saw out of CLG this entire game so far, was when they were looking for that flank. The end, trying to find a flank on the Gnar, or Hooks finding a Zephyr Blade over the wall. Almost opened up a huge fight for the side of CLG there. And now that they have completed items, Orianna is sitting on 3.5, almost has that Rabadon's death cap for Pobelter here. If he's able to finish off that item and they find that flank once again, you can blow somebody up. Spawn will be deleted, or Yusui, whoever you decide. It has to be one of these two carries on the side of Dignitas that you make that pick onto, though. And with Cleanse and Flash available for Spawn, and Yusui having his Flash back up and available with that Zhonya's, it's just a little too difficult at this point. It feels like that window of opportunity for CLG to commit to these full-on team fights has slowly but surely faded away.
Well, that's another hook, but is that enough for a hook in the box? Is that enough for CLG to want to take a fight? There's 20 seconds on the Dragon. They're down so much gold, though.
This is the opportunity for CLG to take the fight for sure. And Elder Drake here with the 2 Mountain Souls that they have would mean, if they're able to find it, that they can turn this game around and potentially win. They would give them the avenue to blow this game open, but they've once again given Dignitas, this kiting team, the inside track towards this Elder Drake just as it spawns.
Okay, well, they're going for it, and they're losing a lot of pressure in their Nexus turrets, but Hook catches Udyr. He has to ghost in if he wants to take a steal. He's gonna get chunked out.
He doesn't have Ghost, though. Keel is already below half health here. He has no way of getting into this one. Another hook. Yusui finds that one. He just never committed to anything there. JJ playing with the vision in that bush doesn't allow CLG to even walk through the pixel bush in this river here. Now, no smite available for CLG. And it looks like the rest of the members don't want to commit to this fight. They have to do something here. You cannot give over this Elder Drake. They might look for a steal here. Another hook over the wall. Elder Drake slowly but surely going down by the hands of Dignitas here. And they're not quite full committing now. JJ is over the wall. Nobody is there. All of CLG have backed off. And it's just an Elder Drake given over.
He's ending.
Oh! Wait, Lorlo, when did he get there? Teleport coming out. Lorlo is doing his best to try to finish this one off. He's doing his best. Expect Thean is coming in here, but that Gnar ultimate is not going to be doing a whole lot. And now he's the one that's being caught out of position here. The Gale Force from Katsuri is going to be able to finish off the Gangplank, but it is a little too late as Elder Drake has already been picked up, and the rest of the cavalry is here. Dignitas are coming in. Acadian does not care about your bullet time. He is going to face tank that entire ultimate, and now that the rest of CLG is trying to commit to this fight, they realize that they are too weak, that they are not going to be able to do it. Yusui with the flashy plays comes in for one last ultimate. He's able to find 2 as Dignitas picks up the first win of this week.
And their bottom lane goes deathless too. Spawn and JJ popping off there. Kai'Sa Thresh showing us that the bot lane can be played around. They knew what they needed to do to win the game. They really did, right? Focus the bottom lane, make sure your lanes are just farming away, prioritize the dragons, and then CLG had those moments, those 2 counter ganks. If those went CLG's way, I really think we might have seen a different game. They might have had the itemization to be able to run into Dignitas, survive, and then engage, but we never got to that point. So their engage was always lackluster, and frankly hilarious to see Udyr just running at you as your primary engage.
I mean, that's always been one of the things that's kind of gate-kept Udyr out of the professional scene, even when he was super meta back in like Season 4, Season 5, was that he's such a linear champion, and it's both a blessing and a cursing. Being able to run up and slap somebody for a stun, that's great point-and-click CC, but it also means that they know what you're going to do. You're going to run up and try and slap somebody for that stun, and when that's all you can do by the hands of Keel there, when you're facing the likes of JJ on that Thresh, who was playing that front line so well for his team. We're saying he has to be the engage and the disengage for Dignitas Academy. He played it phenomenally well, and he got a couple of early kills from some help with Acadian there. They picked up some early Drakes, and JJ really making use of that, getting tanky, playing that front line, that zoner that the rest of Dignitas needed.
Yeah, sometimes your best bet as Thresh is just being the threat of the disengage, because that probably stopped a lot of the engages that CLG was going for. They just never felt like, well, if we commit here, isn't he just going to get lanterned out? Don't do it. And you get yourself trapped in this cycle where you're never looking for an engage because you think they have cleanse and they have the tools to disengage, and at the end of the game you say, yes, it was good that we never engaged, but we did lose, so maybe we should have done something differently.
It's a catch-22. You're not sure if it was good or bad, but all you know is that you lost at the end of the day. And we got to give CLG some credit. They did stall out this game pretty well here. They're able to pick up 2 Mountain Souls for themselves. They stalled out that Baron just by threatening Keel walking up every time they try to sneak it away. Immediately, you see Dignitas back away from that one. And so they were able to stall the game out for an extra 10-15 minutes, whereas if Dignitas had gotten that 3rd Drake, gotten towards that Mountain Soul, we could have seen this one end much earlier. So props to them where it is due. Unfortunately, they just weren't ever able to find that full engage, and we keep coming back to that. It was just a little bit of disconnect between Hooks and the rest of the team, not able to find the proper engages when the rest of the team is there and ready and available. We do have a interview coming up for you guys with JJ, the Thresh support, who's played frontline and Peel for his entire team, coming up in just a little bit here. So, Crumbs, any last words about this game and series?
Good to see Dignitas find a win. 2 wins now. We're actually breaking into the middle of the pack, so I want to see teams succeed. I mean, CLG's struggling, so okay, we'll push that aside, but seeing Dignitas slowly get their game together is positive for the league.
Yeah, it's definitely positive for sure here. And let me ask, are we going to be going over to a quick Spectre delays we get set up? We're going to be moving over to a quick break here as we get set up for that interview. So ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. JJ will be with us in just a couple of minutes, the winning support after our first game of week 3 here. We'll see you guys soon. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As we're hopping into our interview, we have the support JJ from Dignitas Academy joining us today after that long and grudge of a game. It was 40 minutes or so, and it was a bit of a doozy. How are you feeling after that one, JJ?
Pretty good. It was definitely a little harder than I think it had to be, considering how much we were snowballing in the early game, but a win's a win, so can't be too sad about that.
Hey man, nice to see you back in the Rift in the new team, and I'm just wondering, like, what kind of role are you filling in for the squad? It seems like you have a big say in the leadership here, at least from seeing the way that you had to play both Lantern duty and engage in that game. A lot of responsibility for that.
I feel like my team, I mean, like many people have noted before, we're full of veterans except for Spawn. So I generally don't have to do that much outside of my usual like support duties, like talking about vision, talking about like my roam timings and things like that. And I do think that that's helped a lot make my individual play stronger, since I don't have to worry about like, okay, I have to overcompensate for this guy or anything like that. So that's nice.
I hear that a lot. It happens to a lot of players, that they're just happy to have good players around them that they now have to micromanage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and coming out into that game and talking about it a little bit more in depth, there was that mid-game section. You guys started off really strong, as you mentioned, a couple of early drakes, and I kind of want to know from your perspective, how was the middle stages of that game, where it looked like there were so many fights that were about to start happening, but they didn't quite get engaged on? What were you guys talking about, and what was kind of the communication going on there?
I think it's just like the nature of our comp a little bit is we don't really have like a main engage, so it's like we're trying to either poke them with like barrels or Azir and land hooks on them, and if I don't land the hook, we're not like hard engaging. So that's probably why it stalled out a while until we were able to get some fights going, but I think that's the main reason that it took so long.
Okay, and just so one last for me here. What's your opinion on the state of the bot lane right now? Like, where do you see supports in the champions as well as the bottom lane? Because the new patch seems to have shaken things up, and you did bring out Thresh Kalista, that is somewhat new to the games that have been played thus far.
Well, bot lane's in like a pretty good state, I feel, right now. You can play enchanters like Seraphine, you can play engage supports like Alistar and Rel, and you can play like Thresh and Bard. I feel like, at least for support, you can play pretty much anything right now, which makes me pretty happy because I feel like I have a pretty wide champion pool that I haven't always been able to showcase. Like when I played in LCS, I was pretty much just on Braum and Tahm Kench like every game, so kind of glad to be off those for a while.
Braum and Tahm Kench, the AFK supports of the bottom lane. You just sit there and make sure your team stays alive. Well, JJ, I don't really have any more questions for you, so thank you so much for joining us on this interview today, and congratulations once again on your win versus CLG here today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, my man.
Thank you.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, with that, CLG versus Dignitas is going to be wrapped up. Congratulations to Dignitas, but we do have some more games coming up with you guys today. EG versus 100 Thieves is coming up next. And Crumbs, I want to get your opinion. Who are you looking for in this series?
I'm looking at 100 Thieves. Yeah, 100 Thieves has been a pretty dominant academy team. Right now, they came off a difficult start, right? 50% win rate, but the team seems to always find a way to get really hot talent. So I think that seeing what 100 Thieves can do with young players is always an exciting thing to see, because not a lot of other teams are doing it well.
Yeah, and it's exciting to see 100 Thieves in particular, the only team sitting at 2-2 right now, or after last week, I should say. Dignitas matching them at 2 wins after that last series there. But I'm also super excited for 100 Thieves, as you're mentioning. Their ability to bring in new talent, super exciting. In the amateur scene, they have 100 Thieves next, one of the first orgs to bring in some of these lower players and start really investing in the amateur scene. So I'm super excited to see what they do with their academy as well.
So, I mean, I'm praising 100 Thieves, but this year was also the year that EG started making their program below academy, so they have a prodigy. I think is what they call it. EG
They just
prodigies,
erupted
so,
too, yes.
yeah, so a lot of these teams are starting to understand, hey, there is something to it, to being able to have an entire streamlined process from LCS Academy below it, and maybe even go another one below it, a kindergarten League of Legends program that we're going to end up with. But seeing that the teams really take an interest in creating a pathway for becoming a pro, I think should just give us more talent, because now you can be in school and see, hey, there is actually a pathway for me to make it, and I can show this to my parents, and then they can allow me to do it. Understand that there is safety in this. It's not just a random career. So I think that the more that teams do this, the better we're gonna get players in North America.
Yeah, and that's always something that I'm super excited to see. LCS getting better, newer talent, filling in some of those roles that have been taken up by veterans for years and years. And, you know, I personally love seeing homegrown talent straight out of NA. For me personally, Niles has been one of my favorite players to watch in LCS recently, because he recently just graduated out of amateur scene, got picked up at scouting grounds, and then went straight into LCS. Didn't spend much time in academy, if any at all. So Niles coming in from the amateur scene into the LCS, one of those homegrown talents for North America. Super, super exciting to watch. And with a lot of these teams, a lot of these orgs coming out here and building not just academy teams to play competitively, but amateur levels teams as well, it's super exciting. I'm excited to see how these two teams are going to be facing off, but we are going to throw it over to a quick break as we get set up for game 2 here between Evil Geniuses Academy and 100 Thieves. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you soon.